Hello and welcome back to my channel. For this video, I want to talk to you about one of the simplest ways to build and protect your wealth that often does not get enough attention in the personal finance space, or any attention. I'm talking about employment contracts, specifically for non-union workers. Now, I know what you're thinking. No one likes paperwork. Why are we talking about this? I'm telling you though, if you do not do these really important things and very easy things when you get that job offer, when you get that employment contract, you are leaving thousands of dollars on the table, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, because life is long and so is your career, and compound interest works with salaries too. Now, if you want a real deep dive into this topic, I highly recommend listening to my podcast episode with Witten and Lublin employment lawyers and founding partners David Witten and Daniel Lublin after watching this. And I will link to it in the description so you can find it very easily, but it is on this channel. You can watch it. They also have a ton of helpful resources on their website, like a severance calculator and a virtual lawyer. So make sure to check those out at wittenlublin.com. And a big thank you to Witten and Lublin for partnering with me on this video, because honestly, this information I'm about to share is really important for you to know. And I am not a lawyer or a legal expert, even though I did have a stint of working in a law firm for a few years, but that was a whole other thing. I did not learn anything about the law. And that's why it was so great partnering with them, because they were able to help me put all of this together to help you. So the next time you are at an interview or you get a job offer, you're going to be so much more prepared. So in this video, I'm going to share some of the key things you need to do to make sure you actually get paid your worth when you get a new job. Because let me be real with you. In my past career, I made all of the mistakes, like all of them. And I really don't want you to do the same. So with that, we've got a lot to cover. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's set the scene. You've survived a round of interviews and finally you get the call that they'd like to offer you the position. Before you jump for joy and ask, when can I get started? Say this instead. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very excited about it. I'll just need a few days to review the employment contract and I'll get right back to you. That's it. Simple. That's what you got to say. Now, you may be asking, why not just say yes? You obviously want the job. That's why you're interviewing for it. And won't delaying accepting it look bad? What if they rescind the offer? Well, first, if they rescind the offer because you need a few days to review your employment contract, that's a big red flag. That's probably a telltale sign of what to expect working for them, and it does not sound good. If it's a good and reasonable employer you're working with, then they will absolutely understand that you want to review your contract properly. Because ultimately, your employment contract sets the stage for how you start the job, progress in the company, and eventually exit. Not only that, reviewing your contract gives you some room to negotiate. Now, I think people often are confused as to when they should negotiate with a new job. Well, it's not during the interview process and it's not after you've already accepted the job. It's in that in-between period where they've offered you the job and you get the contract. So now is the time to set the terms to make both of you happy, not just your employer. Now, in general, everything is negotiable. For example, the contract may say your salary is $80,000, but in the interview, you discussed a salary range between $70,000 and $100,000. Well, it looks like there's some room to negotiate a higher salary, because the higher you negotiate that number, the easier it will be to negotiate a raise to an even higher number in the future. If you start at the bottom of the salary range, that means it will just take you that much longer to get to that higher salary, meaning there's less money going into your pocket than there could have been. Money that you could be saving or investing or using to pay down debt. But salary isn't the only thing that you can negotiate. You can also negotiate things like bonuses, benefits like vacation time or unpaid time off, or stock options. I actually have one friend who was really able to put this into practice. She worked at a job that was events focused, where she often had to work a ton of overtime during the summer months. And then it was pretty slow during the rest of the year. Now, because she loves to travel, she saw a window of opportunity to do so during those really slow periods. And she was able to negotiate months, and I'm talking 4 to 5 months or more of unpaid time off from her job so she could go and travel the world, which she did, and come back to her job waiting for her when she got back. And she was at that job for, close to 10 years. So don't just think salary is the only thing that you can negotiate. Think outside the box, because people do it all the time with their contracts. Now, although negotiation is important, what's equally important is making sure your contract is what you expected. And if it isn't, make sure it gets corrected. For example, years ago, when I was at the start of my career in my 20s and very naive, I accepted a job where they told me I'd be earning $50,000 per year. But when I got my employment contract, it stated I'd be earning only $45,000 per year. Now, those two numbers are obviously not the same. And when I brought it up to management, they said it wasn't a mistake and basically gaslit me into believing that I'd confused the numbers when I was in the interview. Yeah. No, I didn't. Needless to say, and for a bunch of other reasons, I quit after a week. So that's just another telltale sign of that is not a good employer to work for, but it also just goes to show how important it is to make sure the salary you both agree to is correct. Your job title is what they promised you, and there is clear language for other important things, such as bonuses. For example, many contracts will say something like, bonuses are up to the discretion of the employer. That's it. No other information on what you need to actually do performance-wise to earn a bonus. Well, because that language is so vague, it basically leaves the door open for the employer to never hand out any bonuses. In this case, that would be something you could ask for more clear language on, what you need to do to get a bonus, something quantifiable that you can then use later on. And if they push back, well, that might be another red flag. Now, another thing to look out for, especially if you're a remote worker, is language to protect your remote worker status. I know a lot of companies are trying to get workers back into the office, but if you are hired as a 100% remote worker, that needs to be in the contract. Your work location should be your home address, not the company's head office. Or if you're a hybrid worker in which you are sometimes in the office, sometimes you work from home, you also got to get that into your contract, how many days you're required to be in the office. Because if you just leave it up to them, well, they may end up saying all the days in the office, and you're no longer working remotely from home. And if you are working remotely, there should also be clear language about your work hours, communication protocols, equipment and software they'll provide you, and how you'll be reimbursed for expenses you'll accrue working from home. Get it all in writing. Now, the last thing you should be on the lookout for in your employment contract is information about severance. Severance is a big one that's often overlooked, and I get it. Why would you want to talk about leaving your job before you even start it? But here's the thing. At some point, you're likely going to leave that job. Sure, you may quit, in which case there's likely no case for you to get severance, though there are some exceptions. But if you get laid off or fired, you are entitled to severance, unless you're fired with cause for some serious misconduct. Severance is so important because it provides you with valuable income to keep paying your bills while you search for another job. Without a good severance package, you may be forced to dip into personal savings or get into debt. That's not something I want for you, even though I do advocate that everyone should have an emergency fund just in case. But still, negotiating your severance package at the start is vital. Now, as we touched on in that podcast episode that I did with Witten and Lublin, it is a lot harder to negotiate a decent severance package when you've been let go and don't have much leverage compared to when you're about to start and still hold all the cards. So you need to get that baked into your contract right at the start. You may not even know where to start with this, so I would suggest testing out Witten and Lublin's severance calculator to get a better understanding of what you'd be entitled to based on your length of service to your employer, current age, and type of work that you perform. However, since severance calculators can only do so much and there is usually a lot of nuance to factor in, this is where an employment lawyer can really help. Now, like I've already said, I am not a legal expert, but I am a money expert. And one thing I tell people to do all the time is that if they need help with their money, work with a professional in the field to get the advice they need. DIYing your money can only get you so far, and at a certain point, you may need the help of an expert. And yes, I myself work with a financial planner. The same thing goes for your job, because it's not just a job, is it? It's your livelihood, and it can be extremely valuable to have someone look out for your best interests because you know your employer is looking out for theirs. And make sure you've got a solid contract that provides you with what you deserve when you start the job and when you leave. Now, if you'd like to learn more about your employment rights in Canada or are curious about speaking with an employment lawyer because maybe you're about to get a new job, make sure to check out wittenlublin.com and get in touch with our team. I will link up below, so make sure to check that out. Well, I hope you've learned a few things and at least feel more prepared the next time you're in a position where you have to accept a job offer. You deserve to be paid your worth, so you need to look out for you. If you have any questions at all, make sure to put them in the comments. And once again, a big thank you to Witten and Lublin for partnering with me on this video and helping me share this really important information. Well, that's it for me. Thanks again for watching and supporting this channel, and I'll see you next time.